Markle's fake royal tour of the Middle East just got a hell of a lot worse. Not only are there Hamas connections, she is being slammed for the way that she dealt with this amputee girl, given that her own father is currently going through the process of being fitted for a prosthetic leg in the Philippines, and she hasn't been in touch with him at all. So we're going to expose every cringeworthy, every politically inappropriate moment of this terrible tour on today's show. But first, just look at how much she is faking it, how much she is acting with her faux concern as the amputee is asked to show her leg. Watch.
She said yes. Okay, so her plan was to amputate her right leg. However, they refused. After multiple attempts, dressings are being done under anesthesia because they are very painful. However, sometimes anesthesia was not available then. So this was very severe and traumatizing to her.
Save me your fake concern, Ms. Markle. Given your own father has had his leg removed, is in a foreign hospital, and you couldn't be bothered to get on a plane, but indeed, you couldn't have been bothered to pick up the phone. And I'm not surprised that your brother, Thomas Markle Jr., is completely outraged by the way that you have behaved. Watch.
It's just, mind-boggling how you can just continue to walk through life and not even give the man a phone call and pay for the best medical care that dad needs right now. He's going through therapy, he's going through physical rehab, and we're gonna have to get him fitted for a prosthetic here pretty soon and get that man walking again. So that's the goal, that's the priority, and I'm good doing that. And I hope next time, Meghan, that you see a disabled person or somebody who has only one leg, I hope you think real hard. And I hope karma beats the living Christ out of your mentality. Because God knows, Meghan. God knows. He's got a special place for you right next to that cabinet. When you're not even going to get up there. You're going straight to hell.
And I mean, there were so many terrible moments on this tour, as Hans pointed out. Looking at this piece of imagery, why is Meghan the only person smiling? And then, did you see when she arrived in Jordan? And I want to show you this clip, actually. She actually pushes past Prince Harry, the real member of the royal family, to go and meet the corrupted boss of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, before her husband. Watch. She just had to get in first. As Brittany of the Royal News Network posted, it remains completely inappropriate for Meghan to greet the Director General of the World Health Organization before Harry. Harry's father is the only reason they're there at all. Without his father, she's nothing in this world, and proves why they can't welcome Harry back into the family. Meghan still has zero respect for her husband and protocol. And she also has zero respect for people who are trying to do their job. I mean, look at how she showed her true feelings when the mask came off with the translator.
For example, versus the keyboard, how do you know which one is the right fit?
That's the real Meghan, isn't it? And I've got to show you this child. It's always children, isn't it, who really are able to understand a person. So look at this. This child, not interested in Meghan at all. So much so that she just walks off. But when Meghan did get into the World Health Organization event, of course, she was the one who decided to take the microphone, and Harry, once again, was left looking furious.
Thank you so much for all of your efforts. I look forward to continuing the conversation, especially with Dr. Tedros, about how when funding does come in, it feels ring-fenced. to be able to liberate that.
But all of this is just a ploy for social media attention in the midst of a crisis for the British royal family. Indeed, James Holt, their former staffer, has been dragged back in to get all of the best angles. Look, according to Taz spotted this, he's there, top left. You can probably see it in the picture. James Holt is with them. All the focus is on Meghan. Harry looks utterly lost and can't even be bothered to interact with the children. Perhaps the little girl stole his favourite crayon paper. She also pointed out that in this picture, Meghan is attached to Harry like a limpet. And she did sort of contrast how in Colombia, Harry was left on the kids' table at the end. And there was a similar thing going on there too. Now, of course, you do have defenders of Meghan, not many, but Narinder Kaur, the hard leftist, is one who is trying to suggest that there is some type of Diana appeal with Meghan. I really don't see it, if I'm honest. And Tori Bakahay said Markle and Dumb Prince Harry, a pair of unemployed show-offs noted for their venal behaviour and obsession with easy cash, take their private jets, jewellery and word salads to the Middle East so they can cry for the cameras while exploiting some of the poorest kids in the world. There was much attention on Meghan's completely random outfits. I mean, look at Harry's face there, by the way. He's just miserable, isn't he? Nancy Sidley said Meghan Markle had 3 wardrobe changes in one day on a humanitarian mission. She then makes the odd choice to wear open-toed shoes to a hospital. And Tom Sykes said that this confusing Jordan tour saw Meghan trying to cosplay and dress like Angelina Jolie. And there are a couple of moments where there are comparisons there. There's Angelina Jolie playing soccer just like Meghan did. I do think she's been on the Google. But of course, the crazed stunts were back as well. This from Tom of the Royalist Substack. Meghan Markle dispensed affirmation today as she and Prince Harry concluded their Jordan tour by pinning handwritten notes to a wall at a rehab centre in Amman, while sharp-eyed observers noted she was dressed just like Jolie was on a similar trip in 2003. At the National Centre for Rehabilitation of Addicts, Meghan chose orange paper and wrote in the polished calligrapher's lupine copperplate script we have heard so much about over the years. From her. Congratulations on your dedication to your care. Wishing you continued healing and happiness. Harry, on yellow and less complex hand, offered it's okay to not be okay. Trust each other. Congratulations on your recovery. Now share your courage and experience. But as I say, Harry, I think, was just a bit part player in all of this. And as is always the case, looks completely miserable when Meghan is trying to steal the attention.
Versus the keyboard, how do you know which one is the right fit at the beginning?
So, like the other room, here our activities are integrated with mental health exercises to help them express themselves and discover their feelings. Yes,
It's a better choice, especially for mental health. Everybody else is as well. Yeah, we will go to see the gym.
Thank you all. And that group over there is doing the same? Or
They're doing no.
painting?
يعطيكم العافية شكرا. Like cement, the white one. So they use it from scratch. The molding, they use it and they start to that, then they start
There has also been anger overnight over the fact that the British ambassador has seemingly endorsed this visit. According to Taz, posting, why the hell is Philip Hall, the British ambassador to Jordan, publicly thanking them? And this is what he said: your visit, your support, your appreciation of the efforts that the United Nations, including, of course, the WHO, the government of Jordan and others are making here, is enormously appreciated. Royal Newsnet, with the British ambassador hosting the couple for a reception, is a bad look. He shouldn't be, as they have no connection to the Brits or the British government beyond delusions, which he is not fostering. Charles needs to get the royal house in order and make their departure permanent. And I agree with that. Nancy Sidley just said it was completely unacceptable. Also unacceptable, of course, is that this visit was very much designed to overshadow two key royal moments yesterday. First, we had William at the Francis Crick Institute, and he was doing very good work. Lots of people loved his look, actually, turning up in a suit. And this moment, unfortunately, has been overshadowed. Watch.
It's like in there? Yeah. Press the one. Just like that? Okay.
Also, that's the holder for your index finger.
Like that?
Yeah, like that.
Okay. In there? When you go and audit. Press the button. Here we go. And then release?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got something here. On here?
Yeah.
Pressing back in again.
Press it all the way.
All the way to the end. Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that the Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie, has been in Somalia. And this is what the British royal family wanted to speak about. She was at a hospital too, in the centre of Mogadishu. But of course, she doesn't use the mainstream media in the same way as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle do. And I have to say, the MSM has embarrassed itself with its coverage of this trip. Pure propaganda. It's why you can't rely on the Royal Rota anymore. It's why you can't rely on these big media beasts who seem to be so terrified of Meghan and Harry that they are now pumping out their talking points. I mean, look at this. From the Daily Mail. Remember, Harry and Meghan are in court this week, or at least Harry is, trying to destroy the Daily Mail. But this was their take on the trip. Down-to-earth Duchess. Meghan has no time to worry about creased trousers as she proudly focuses on her work in Jordan with no entourage and no 6-foot ironing board like Andrews Valet used to carry around. I'm sorry, the Daily Mail, if you now think that Meghan Markle is down to earth, you have truly lost the plot. But they said with no entourage, Meghan is known to largely style her own hair, makeup and wardrobe, and likely no 6-foot ironing board like Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Her trousers understandably look creased, but Meghan clearly has no time to worry about the rogue wrinkles as she instead proudly focuses on her important work in Jordan. Just stop, Daily Mail, just stop. But the Daily Telegraph was just as bad, with Hannah Furness, their royal editor, pumping out a piece of pro-Sussex propaganda saying, thank goodness for Harry and Meghan. Why, I hear you ask? Well, this was the Furness take. The rest of the royal family is at work, hoping to fulfill their long-arranged commitments to charities and communities without anyone shouting at them about Epstein. A faint hope, but let's see. So thank goodness for Prince Harry and Meghan, launching themselves two-footed back into the world of non-royal tours to give everyone something to talk about. All of a sudden, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are back and ready to help. They're off to Oman for 2 days and have already managed to hold hands with hospital patients and stage a football penalty shootout. I mean, it just went on and on and on. She did say they'll be accused of trying to capitalise on a tricky time for the monarchy they left behind. Yet no kidding. No sugar, Sherlock. It is less than a week after Harry's uncle was arrested and the king has found himself under even more pressure while continuing his cancer treatment. Yes, they'll turn the clock back to go head-to-head PR-wise with the Prince and Princess of Wales on one of their joint engagements today. Yes, someone may revisit that unfortunate but catchy disaster tourism phrase, which is easier to apply to celebrities travelling to refugee camps than it is to members of the working royal family who undertake similar visits on behalf of the government. The destination of Jordan is interesting. It is strategically important for the UK as a defence hub in the Middle East. The Princess of Wales lived there as a child and the whole family has been there on holiday. Prince William has spent a good deal of time with the Crown Prince. But she adds, the template of the trip obviously is straight from the royal tour playbook. After the shambles of that Colombia trip, the Sussexes are back to almost exactly what they could have done as working members of the royal family, except this time through the WHO. Football, hospital, bedside, roundtable meetings, tick, tick, tick. Does it matter? I'm not sure it does, really. In fact, I'd go as far to say this is their big chance to prove that they can make their not-so-new lives work. Prince Harry has enough experience of overseas tours to know what to copy and paste to make a good picture. Seriously, just stop this propaganda. Because here was the key line, buried right at the end of the piece. They are travelling with one selected reporter and photographer, so have very little chance of accidentally being caught off message. This is nothing than a propaganda tour, And you should be pointing that
Dan
out.
Wootton raises a series of claims that deserve closer examination, not because they are sensational, but because of what they imply. In his segment, Dan frames Meghan and Harry's Middle East visit as a fake royal tour, argues it was designed for optics, and suggests it risks dragging the wider monarchy into unwanted political territory. He also highlights footage from the visit moments around a hospital encounter, a translator exchange, and Meghan taking a microphone as proof, in his view, that the trip is performative and poorly judged. Finally, he amplifies a report alleging that an NGO connected to a youth center visited by the couple had staff who posted pro-Hamas content online, and he presents that as either a catastrophic vetting failure or a deliberate political signal. My purpose here isn't to react emotionally or to litigate personalities. It's to examine what these narratives do, how they travel, what they incentivize, and what consequences follow when humanitarian visit and political theater become indistinguishable in the public mind. First, the emotional core of Dan's critique is built around contrast. On one hand, the public-facing compassion shown to vulnerable people. On the other, the private family estrangements he says make that compassion ring hollow. The segment leans heavily on the idea that a public act of empathy becomes suspect if a private relationship is unresolved. But this is where audiences should be careful. Ethical consistency matters, yes, yet it's also true that family conflict is not a reliable instrument for judging the sincerity of every public interaction. If we make perfect private life the admission ticket to public service, we essentially hand the loudest critics a permanent veto over anyone's charitable work. The more disciplined question is narrower: was the engagement appropriate, and was it conducted with dignity for the people being visited? That is a standard we can apply without needing to turn private family history into a courtroom exhibit. Second, Dan's video repeatedly returns to a familiar theme: the optics of hierarchy. He points to moments where Meghan appears to move ahead of Harry, greet someone first, or take the microphone. In royal settings, those details matter because protocol is part of the institution's language. But here's the complication: this trip is presented as non-royal, outside official duty. That creates a strange hybrid. The couple seem to borrow the look of royal engagements while denying the rules that normally govern them. And hybrid status is not neutral, it produces confusion. If you walk like an official delegation, you will be judged like one. If you insist you're private citizens, then your presence at sensitive institutions, alongside senior global figures, raises a basic question. Who is this visit for? Beneficiaries, host institutions, or brand positioning? In that sense, Dan's critique is strongest when he focuses on incentives rather than facial expressions: camera control, curated access, selected media, carefully framed images. A tightly managed trip doesn't automatically equal propaganda, but it does mean the primary product may be narrative rather than outcomes.
What disgusts me most is that the mainstream media have completely ignored the Hamas link to Harry and Meghan's fake royal tour. Look here, it was exposed last night by honest reporting, which very often looks for these types of stories, which the mainstream media very often misses. And I want to run you through it because, honestly, this world exclusive is extremely disturbing. Prince Harry and Meghan today visited a Jordanian youth centre run by an NGO whose listed staff had shared posts glorifying Hamas terrorists. Hamas is a designated terrorist organisation who approved this visit, and we know Harry and Meghan are signing up to the hard left playbook. But let me just go through the receipts that honest reporting have discovered. Quest Scope calls itself a humanitarian org serving vulnerable youth. But a review of verified Facebook accounts belonging to individuals identified as staff shows images of Hamas-affiliated militants, graphics celebrating rocket attacks from Gaza, posts praising resistance violence, Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine propaganda. Staff linked to the NGO shared imagery of masked militants wearing Hamas headbands and posts echoing Hamas-aligned messaging. This is not apolitical humanitarian content. If the visit was non-political, why were these public posts not flagged? Vetting matters. And there were more receipts. In October 2024, one staff member posted, and in October, we have come to have a deep-seated love. The wording does not explicitly mention October the 7th, but in the current climate where October is widely invoked in reference to Hamas and the massacre in Israel, the symbolism is striking. Supporting Palestinian civilians is legitimate. Glorifying Hamas is not. Hamas is a US and UK designated terrorist organization responsible for mass murder, hostage-taking, the largest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. This is not a grey area. Meghan has built her brand on advancing women's rights and dignity. Hamas's October 7th atrocities included documented sexual violence against women and abuse of hostages in captivity. Advocacy cannot be selective. Humanitarian credibility depends not only on compassion, but judgment. This is not about opposing aid, it's about standards. If the Sussexes believe this visit was purely humanitarian, they owe the public clarity. What vetting was conducted? What safeguards were in place? What message does the association send? And I want to come now to our royal mastermind, Prince Harry's biographer, Angela Levin, who is very personally touched on this issue as a Jewish woman. And Angela, you're disgusted by this, aren't you? Horrified. A new low for Harry and Meghan and a new massive problem, I would argue, for the British royal family.
Yeah, shocked and disgusted. I think it's terrible because are they there because they wanted to be there and they believe in Hamas and they're going to go on their side and make life extremely difficult, not for our family, but for anyone who actually doesn't believe that they're nice people? Secondly, is it just that they didn't bother because they couldn't be bothered and they just wanted to do it 1, 2, 3? Because we only knew that they were going less than 24 hours before they did. So because I think Meghan never actually finishes anything neatly, perhaps they didn't do that. And I hope so, because I think to have these men who want to kill people and be delighted, and that's what they live for, it's particularly difficult to feel you can handle that, actually. I was absolutely shocked to pieces. And it makes me frightened, and that's what they want, of course. But it does make me frightened, because if they see you and they know who you are, oh, they can grab you and kill you in a minute. And that's what she is showing off.
I mean, it's so interesting, Angela, because I think this is absolutely not an apolitical trip, and this Hamas-affiliated organisation proves it. This is what Harry and Meghan said themselves in a Q&A document released by their staff before the visit. The couple are pro-family and pro-children, and their philanthropic work reflects this value and deep-rooted care for humanity. But I mean, I just think that's rubbish anyway. I mean, how on earth can they describe themselves as pro-family when you've got Meghan looking at that amputee victim, sort of trying to put on her caring face when her own father is going through the same thing in a hospital in the Philippines, and she's done absolutely nothing to visit him?
Yes, I know. Well, that's what she's showing, that she has her own idea of being good, and it's not my idea and most people's idea, that it's appalling if she can't go and see her father or phone him or do something that will help him get better. In what her half-brother said, you know, he would have good attention and use the money, but she's not doing anything. She's just put her foot down and she won't do anything. She's absolutely dreadful, and that cuddling with her father is probably nonsense as well. But it's just, it is just, you have to gasp to think that that's what they can do. But if it's actually to annoy the royal family, then she's done it, 10 out of 10, because this is shocking that the king, I know he likes some religions, all different sorts of religions, but he doesn't like Hamas. And I think that anyone in the royal family will be absolutely shocked to bits that this is what they've done. And I hope this pushes them all forward, particularly the king and William, to actually stop them being allowed to do this and take away their titles even more, and actually cancel everything they can do. I think that they've got to really take something very seriously and actually wipe it out, because if that's what they think they're doing for this, people in the UK, it's just terrible. You just you have to stop it. They have to stop it. The king has to stop it. I don't know whatever way he can do it, but he's got to do that, because they can't jolly off and actually ruin what hundreds of people will think about the royal family.
I know. And it's such a risk. It is such a risk. It's like, Charles, when are you going to act? When are you going to act? I mean, personally, Angela, I believe this was purposeful. I really do. I think they were making a political statement. I really do. And I do. I honestly do. I think they're on the hard left. They're radical leftists. I think they were making a political statement. But either way, it's disastrous, because it either shows that they are being totally political, and that is going to bring more and more damage to the British royal family, which has to be an apolitical organisation in order to survive in the coming years. Or, Angela, they just have such a crappy team and such terrible vetting procedures that they're going to keep on making these mistakes time and again. But the bigger point is, as well, they shouldn't be able to use their titles for this type of thing, especially when the British royal family were doing the work that should be on all of the newspaper front pages. I mean, we saw William at that very important scientific institute. And also yesterday was a big day for the Queen, Queen Camilla, Angela. And it's lovely, actually. We've got to give the Queen her moment. This was her with Paddington Bear. Did you see this? Watch.
I know. Well, she loves bears.
All the way. Very tight. You're going to give all your marmalade sandwiches to all these children. Cuts I can touch. Thank you very much. Just a little bit hot.
Do you know what she did? Do you know what she did after the Queen Elizabeth died? She collected all those little bears everywhere. People had put them down because the Queen had had a cup of tea with it, and she got hundreds of them, and she got them washed, absolutely beautifully washed, and looking very smart in their outfits. And she took them to lots of places where children were staying there who were, they didn't have parents, and parents weren't capable of looking after them. And she took them in to give each one herself. And some of the children were so, didn't even know what to say. Some of them loved it and some of them were scared of it. But she was very, very good, and she spent hours there talking to them about the little bears. But she knew that they had to be spotlessly clean because of, just make sure it was right for children to have. I thought that was a marvellous thing. So she's still very keen on bears. Yeah. And she likes the books, of course, as well. So
yes, she does. Well, look, at least one royal didn't put a foot wrong. Angela Levin, our royal mastermind. So brilliant to have you. But Angela, look, stand by.
Third, there's the most serious allegation in the segment, the claim that a visited NGO or individuals listed as staff had shared content supportive of Hamas. This is where precision matters. If a public figure visits a youth centre or partner organisation, and credible evidence emerges that affiliated personnel have endorsed or glorified violence, especially from a group designated as terrorist by the UK and US, then the issue isn't bad optics. It becomes a question of governance and due diligence. What vetting occurred? Who arranged the visit? What safeguards were used to avoid legitimizing extremist messaging, even inadvertently? Those are fair questions to ask, and they can be asked without turning the entire trip into a sweeping accusation. At the same time, viewers should recognize how quickly online receipts can move from someone posted something to everyone involved endorses it. The responsible approach is to separate 3 layers. What the couple did and said on the day, what host organizations are formally responsible for, and what individual staff may have posted online, and whether that reflects institutional values or a failure to moderate and monitor. If those layers are collapsed into one, the story becomes emotionally irresistible but analytically unreliable. And that benefits commentators, activists, and algorithms far more than it benefits public understanding. Fourth, Dan argues the trip overshadowed official royal engagements at home and implies this was the point. That's plausible as strategy, but it's also the inevitable result of modern media economics. A controversy-rich narrative will outcompete steady institutional work every time. The deeper risk for the monarchy isn't that outsiders steal attention, it's that the public increasingly learns to read all humanitarian imagery as performance. When every visit becomes content, the losers are often the people being visited. So what should an intelligent audience take away? 1. If you want credibility in humanitarian work, you need transparency of purpose, clear partners, clear funding, clear outcomes, and clear lines between advocacy and brand building. 2. If you want to avoid political entanglement, you need serious vetting not as a box tick, but as a public responsibility. And 3. If you're going to criticize the media, you need to model higher standards yourself, focus on verifiable claims, avoid implying guilt by proximity, and keep the moral temperature lower than the algorithm wants. Dan Wootton's video is designed to provoke, but beneath the provocation is a real question. In a world where influence travels faster than accountability, who gets to conduct quasi-diplomacy, under what banner, and with what checks? That question matters not for gossip, but for institutional trust, public safety, and the integrity of humanitarian work itself.